In the scorched, lawless dust bowl of the Mojave Wasteland, few stand tall against the chaos. But when monsters roam, raiders rise, and war drums echo from the east, one silhouette still brings hope: the NCR Rangers. These elite agents of the Republic are the Mojave's answer to anarchy, combining the tracking instincts of a seasoned scout, the firepower of special forces, and the grit of a frontier lawman. But that's just scratching the surface of these gas mask-wearing guardians. Welcome aboard everyone to this Law Tours flight deep into NCR territory. Buckle up, as today we're heading for the sun-bleached highways and shattered canyons of the Mojave Wasteland, where we'll uncover the origins of the NCR Rangers, meet a few active duty legends, and revisit the firefights that forged their legacy. But it looks like we're ready to take off, but as always, a few safety announcements. Law Tours are not liable for any FEV exposure, limb loss, or conscription into Caesar's Legion, and any guests travelling with small children are kindly reminded not to leave them unattended near fiends, boomers, deathclaws, or really anyone. The scorched lands of the Mojave, circa late 23rd century. Let's head on down and begin our tour. Our first stop on this tour today is Camp McCarran, a fortified slice of bureaucracy and bravado baked into the ruins of an old-world airport. These hangars once launched civilian flights to San Francisco. Now they're home to the New Vegas military detachment of the New California Republic, a sprawling federal government that sprung up following the obliteration of the Old World in the atomic fire of the Great War. They stand as guardians of democracy, liberty, and the rule of law in a wasteland filled with raiders, slavers, and foul mutants. Their territory spans from the glittering, if albeit slightly irradiated, Pacific Ocean coastline, all the way to the outskirts of the New Vegas Strip itself. But it wasn't always this way. Roll the clock back to the 2160s, and the mighty NCR was just a humble patch of cropland called Shady Sands, a dusty little town built by ex-vault dwellers with more hope than food. Each day was a struggle for survival against both the elements and the raider gangs who threatened their very existence. But they held the line, banding together, building a community from stubborn grit, and holding off raider gangs like the Khans, Jackals, and Vipers, all of whom saw Shady Sands as an all-you-can-loot buffet. Tasked with defending Shady Sands was Seth, local tough guy, moral compass, and first to pick up a rifle when trouble knocked. As head of the town guard, Seth stood for justice, order, and making sure Shady Sands didn't go the way of every other burnt-out settlement in California, meaning the town grew and expanded, joining forces with other settlements of like-minded individuals to form the fledgling New California Republic. However, sometime after the year 2194, whilst on an expedition into the wastes with Aradesh, the founder of the NCR, both men vanished, never to be seen again. Despite this setback, the NCR continued to expand, and with it, the NCR military evolved from a small-town militia into a formidable and organized fighting force, the pride of which was an elite military unit known as the New California Republic Rangers, a group representing the values held dear by Seth, who they honored as the First Ranger. In their early years, the Rangers weren't just patrolling fences, they were blowing open cages. Formed as a small, specialized unit, the NCR Rangers made it their mission to hunt slavers, liberate the captured, and abolish slavery within the NCR's borders. For decades, they waged war on slavers, raiders, and other threats who chose to prey on the innocent, fighting these both in the NCR's legal system and on the battlefield. By 2241, the NCR Rangers had acquired enough political capital to enact sweeping bans on slavery throughout much of the NCR's expanding territory, meaning they could set their sights outside their own borders. Where slavers were present, the Rangers would raid them, helping potential slaves flee their would-be captors and smuggle liberated slaves to the Republic. Their operations were secretive and incredibly dangerous. Often outnumbered, they became a major thorn in the side of the powerful Slavers Guild of Northern California. Yet, due to the impressive operational security implemented by the Rangers, their cells and safehouses were impossible to detect for the untrained slaver muscle. A major turning point in their history came in 2271 with the Ranger Unification Treaty, as elsewhere in the Badlands of Nevada and Arizona, a separate group of Rangers sharing a similar cause were active. These Desert Rangers were a loose band of survivalists and vigilantes, founded by pre-war members of the Texas Rangers, who had ridden out the worst of the Great War's fallout in the desert Badlands. Over the generations, these former lawmen passed down their values and knowledge of combat, weapons, and survival in the sweltering, harsh desert conditions, using this training to head out into the wastes and keep the peace like the Texas Rangers of old. But the desert only stays quiet for so long. Across the Colorado River, a new power was rising, a brutal regime that definitely spends too much time thinking about the Roman Empire, Caesar's Legion. This new, evil empire set out to divide and conquer the wasteland, spreading their own ancient brand of tyranny. Greatly outnumbered, the Rangers were pushed back into Nevada, and as their numbers dwindled, they were forced to call upon the forces of the NCR, realizing that united with the Republic, they stood a better chance against this imperialistic threat. In exchange for the NCR's protection of Hoover Dam, New Vegas, and southern Nevada from Caesar's Legion, the Desert Rangers agreed to fold into the NCR military structure, creating the modern NCR Rangers, a larger, stronger force taking the survival skills and experience of the fierce Desert Rangers, and combining it with the resources and tactical prowess of the NCR Rangers, becoming a force who were ready for war, not just against slavery, but against tyranny in all its forms. And this pivotal moment in the history of the NCR is honoured by this monument at the spot of the treaty's signing, here at the Mojave Outpost, a quaint little base on the border between NCR territory and the lands of the Mojave that services all caravan traffic passing through the region. Here you might catch a glimpse of a few off-duty rangers, but don't expect a warm welcome. A curt nod maybe, a gruff keep moving if you're lucky. These folks aren't stationed here for chit-chat. They have a distinct culture and daily life that sets them apart from regular troops. These men and women are patriots, who choose the hardship of ranger life out of duty and pride. It's a close-knit outfit where veterans are revered and their wisdom respected. Around a campfire you might see a green rookie ranger, listening intently as a 20-year veteran shares stories of past campaigns, and much of the Rangers' success is thanks to this strong culture of mentorship. Experienced Rangers coach the younger ones, passing on skills like tracking, survival, and sharpshooting that aren't in any manual. Despite this closeness with their comrades, each Ranger is self-reliant and independent, often operating autonomously, undertaking high-risk missions. This autonomy creates a pragmatic and decisive mindset, enabling them to make critical decisions in the field without direct oversight from their superiors. They uphold a code of honor among their members, living by the motto Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants, meaning they stand against tyranny in all its forms. Outsiders rarely interact with these Rangers, and to them, they are feared and respected. Even some NCR troopers believe that the Rangers chew nails and spit napalm, while the chemfiends of the Mojave live in fear of these desert legends, believing that at any moment they could be down scope of a Ranger sharpshooter. Never ones for the big city, or what equates for a big city these days. Rangers are more at home under the night sky and at field outposts like Ranger Station Alpha, which we are circling above right now. It might look like a windswept speck on the Mojave map, but bases like this are the beating heart of NCR's Black Ops in the region. From these outposts, Rangers fan out across the wasteland, conducting covert surveillance, leading high-risk patrols, and every now and then, recruiting someone new to join their ranks. And before you ask, no, you can't just sign up at a desk. Every Ranger is a volunteer, but most are hand-picked from the regular NCR military for showing exceptional skill, composure, and the kind of intensity that makes other soldiers nervous. But invitation doesn't mean admission. You'd be expected to undergo rigorous training, which roughly 8 out of 10 initiates end up dropping out of due to exhaustion and the extreme standards. There are no gender restrictions, no age bias, no red tape, just one rule. You earn your badge or you don't get one. And if you've got the guts and the grit, it doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, a ghoul, or even on a rare occasion, a super mutant. Once admitted to their ranks, Rangers are sorted into a few key types. Standard patrol Rangers are those individuals who have successfully completed the rigorous selection and training process, and they're one of the more common sights across the wasteland. Veteran Ranger is a designation for those with extensive field experience and exemplary service records. These individuals often undertake the most challenging missions and serve as mentors for newer Rangers. And Chief Ranger is the highest rank within the NCR Rangers. As of 2281, this position is held by Chief Hanlon, and he's responsible for overseeing the entire organization and engaging with the NCR hierarchy. But field experience and respect matter more than the stripes on your sleeve, and even though they technically report to the NCR military, Rangers operate with a certain amount of freedom, blurring the line between an independent agency and Army Special Forces. A Ranger's missions largely consist of patrols and reconnaissance. They operate in small teams roaming the frontiers, gathering intel on enemies and keeping the peace. One day, a Ranger might be camped on a ridge observing Legion troop movements across the Colorado River. The next, they could be escorting a caravan of refugees through hazardous territory. Veteran Rangers in particular specialized in nighttime operations, scouting and assassinating under the cover of darkness. Due to their versatility and experience, Rangers have often been assigned more specialized roles to address various threats to the Republic, notably serving as roving death squads, who are assigned to combat terrorist threats. These Rangers are deployed as mobile units with a high degree of autonomy, tasked with hunting down and eliminating enemies of the NCR. They are hit squads tasked with doing terrible things to terrible people, all for the greater good. Some have been seen working as riot control troopers. They are assigned specialized heavy armor and tasked with keeping the peace in civilian areas, whilst others are sent undercover inside criminal gangs to gather evidence and shut down illegal activity. To help them in these missions, the Rangers are equipped with some of the finest gear scavenged by the NCR. And luckily, our artifact reclamation team recently got clearance to explore a genuine NCR Ranger safe house. These bases are used by Rangers in the field to restock, hide out, and get a good night's rest. Inside is an absolute treasure trove of gear, which as part of today's tour, we're going to analyze for you today. But don't expect high-tech metal armor and weapons fit for a sci-fi novel. You see, while the Rangers have access to the best gear the NCR have to offer, they are picky. Power armor, too bulky. Energy weapons, too unreliable. Rangers prefer what works, maneuverable, rugged gear, designed for rough terrain and rougher company. A Ranger on patrol could be equipped with weaponry like a rush gun carbine for use in confined hallways or thick wilderness, providing staggering stopping power at medium range. Or maybe they'll even be carrying an anti-materiel rifle, the massive 50 caliber sniper rifle that could turn a Deathclaw to mush from over a mile away. In terms of armor, most standard Rangers wear the Ranger Patrol Combat Armor, a set of custom-made armor produced by the NCR that is a version of the pre-war reinforced Mark II combat armor, modified to assist the Rangers on protracted missions in the desert. Thick armor plating covers the shoulders, upper body, hips, and lower legs, while modifications seem to have been made to the reinforced Mark II armor base, which seem to include what appears to be a number of vents to allow the armor to breathe, and the removal of plating around the back, sides, and lower arms to allow for greater mobility. A combat knife is attached to the breastplate to allow for easy access. A scarf is tucked in around the neck, ready for use to shield against sandstorms. And on the back of the armor, a light water pack is located, feeding through to a straw on the chest plate to provide the Ranger hydration on extended missions. The elite of the NCR's Rangers have access to the iconic Veteran Ranger armor, inspired by the outfits initially worn by the Desert Rangers, which featured a chest piece of combat armor and the iconic dusters which came to symbolize the Desert Rangers. The most intimidating and useful piece of this armor was the military helmet, however, which featured built-in low-light optics, UV protection lenses, a lamp, integrated headphones and transmitter, a gas mask, and potentially some form of moisture retention unit. Upon the Desert Rangers' integration into the NCR hierarchy, the armor was modified, making use of recovered body armor used by pre-war LAPD riot officers, and adding a gun belt to hold the Veteran Rangers' signature revolver, an ornate and powerful hand cannon firing .45 caliber rounds that was awarded to them after 20 years service. We also weren't able to confirm this ourselves, but it appears that on the back of the armor, like with the patrol combat armor, a light water pack can be found for hydration. Even more impressive than this armor was the advanced and elite riot gear given to those troopers in the NCR riot control units. The advanced riot armor is more heavily plated around the shoulders and arms, and it possesses a newer helmet with an updated gas mask, whereas the elite riot armor features even heavier yet armor around the shoulders and knees, plus the addition of extra storage pouches and an improved communication system. But this isn't a museum tour, let's see this gear in action, as our field cameras have just picked up a ranger squad moving in on a fiend compound, a drug den just outside of New Vegas. A frontal assault by regular NCR troopers would be costly. Instead, let's see how a ranger team handles this. As evening falls, 4 NCR Rangers, a mixture of regular and veterans, move into position around the fiend-held building. One ranger takes up a sniper perch overlooking the building, armed with an anti-materiel rifle. 2 others creep up to the perimeter, whilst the 4th ranger circles round back. When all are in position, the sounds of chem-fueled fiend partying are pierced by the crack of a single 50 caliber round, eliminating the fiend lookout on the roof. Taking that as their signal, the remaining rangers burst into the building, with sudden ferocity, brush guns and hunting shotgun in hand, weapons fit for the close confines of the drug den. A brief firefight fills the room with a short but sweet cacophony of gunfire. Within seconds, it's over. The fiend hideout is cleared, their stash of chems and weapons seized without the NCR having to risk a whole platoon. But let's leave these chaps to clean this mess up, as there's something else I want to show you. We're going to head on over to the site of perhaps the NCR's greatest ever battle, a victory against the odds, made possible thanks to the valiant efforts of the NCR Rangers, and it took place here, at the first battle of Hoover Dam. You see, in 2277, a few years into the NCR's expansion into the Mojave, NCR forces occupying the region were being hampered by skirmishes with the local chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, and weakened supply lines thanks to a nuclear detonation in the Divide cut the Mojave off from a major trade route. Seeing an opportunity to annihilate the weakened NCR forces, Caesar's Legion launched an all-out assault on NCR positions across the Mojave, with the brunt of the assault focusing on Hoover Dam, the hydroelectric dam's ability to still generate massive amounts of power, making it a much sought-after asset. Outnumbered and outgunned, the NCR forces guarding the dam under the command of General Lee Oliver took heavy casualties at the hands of Caesar's legionaries. The relentless onslaught of the frontline raw recruit legionaries, pushed forward by their veterans to the rear, wore the NCR troopers down, causing them to fall back to entrenched positions, where the troopers, through a fierce and dogged display of resistance, managed to hold out long enough for the combined forces of the 1st Recon Sharpshooters and the NCR Rangers under the command of Chief Hanlon to spring their trap. Taking up position on a ridge, the sharpshooters began firing over the heads of the Legion's expendable recruits, picking off their more vulnerable veteran officers in the rear, triggering these battle-hardened and more valuable veterans to rush the sharpshooters' position on the ridge, chasing them all the way to nearby Boulder City. But upon reaching the settlement, the Rangers were nowhere to be found. In their place was a town rigged with enough TNT and C4 to blow it sky high. The explosion tore through the Legion's best and brightest, shattering their command structure and triggering a retreat, On the dam, NCR forces rallied, the line held, the Legion faltered, and with that, victory. The NCR Rangers and Chief Hanlon were revered as heroes of the Republic. Then, as the dust settled following this decisive victory, the Rangers got back to work safeguarding their borders and rooting out tyranny. Little did they know, however, another, more insidious foe was about to rear its head. Politics. And where better to discuss this than Camp Golf, a former golf resort on the shores of Lake New Vegas. Despite its luster, Camp Golf is not a prestigious posting. Far from the front line, it is the trash bin of the NCR Army, home to washouts, rejects, and those ostracized by the NCR hierarchy. Which is why we find Ranger Chief Hanlon here now, as due to their role in the Battle of Hoover Dam, the Rangers garnered quite a reputation for themselves, which caused Chief Hanlon quite the headache. On the one hand, General Oliver, the man who technically oversaw the dam's defense, didn't like being upstaged by a bunch of trench-coated sharpshooters that weren't even under his command. So he shuffled Hanlon out of the way, sent the Rangers to quieter outposts, and ignored their advice every chance he got. Then on the other hand, NCR President Kimball held the Rangers in high esteem, so much so that he tasked many of the most seasoned veteran Rangers to serve as his personal bodyguards, or shipped them off to a covert campaign down south in Baja, Mexico. On the southern frontier of NCR territory, the official line was that they were hunting unknown threats, potentially battling Mexican warlords or pacifying raiders to secure the NCR's southern border. As a result, Chief Hanlon has in recent times had to make do with fewer veterans to cover vast areas of desert. And back in the Mojave, the Legion was getting smarter. They stopped charging head-on and started hitting from the shadows, guerrilla ambushes, sleeper agents, and even sending children to fight against foes whose moral compass couldn't cope with fighting such a young opponent. The Rangers had to adapt. They became colder, more calculating, and skilled in anti-guerrilla warfare. Every day they reported Legion movements, catalogued commanders, became the NCR's eyes and ears. As Legion forces grow in strength and a second battle of Hoover Dam grows likelier with every passing day, the Rangers are preparing to be the tip of the spear once more. With the need for heroes of the Republic now greater than ever, President Kimball has recalled many veteran Rangers from their Mexican campaign, bringing them back to the Mojave, taking up postings at NCR facilities across Nevada. Their presence serves as a comforting sight to the good citizens of New Vegas and a worrying reminder of battles to come. As the drums of war echo across the desert, this brave band of NCR Rangers prepares once again to face the odds and confront tyranny head-on, upholding their legacy as the Republic's first and final line of defense. Where are these heroes of liberty now? Well, we're not really sure. See, the thing about the Mojave is it exists at a temporal crossroads. Thanks to a few timeline variances, the NCR might have won, lost, or collapsed entirely, wandering off into the desert mumbling about taxation. It does seem that no matter the outcome of this second Hoover Dam scuffle, 1 year later in 2283, Shady Sands, capital of the New California Republic, and birthplace of the Rangers, was destroyed by a Vault-Tec executive in a nuclear detonation, wiping out key government branches and a major logistical hub, sending the NCR into freefall. The Rangers, however, well, I like to think that they're still out there. A handful of good folk doing what they can to keep the good fight going. A flickering torch in the dark, a dying Republic's last promise, and maybe, just maybe, the kind of legend the Wasteland still needs. What do you think happened to the NCR Rangers? Would you sign up with them? Make sure to let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to become one of our frequent flyers. Until we see you again, catch you next time.